Hello, welcome to a new edition of the Right Wing Populist Podcast. I am the Right Wing Populist. So today I want to talk about the new Superman movie, a little bit of a follow-up of a podcast I did last week. And the podcast I did last week regarding Superman was the theory, or the fear for some people, that the new Superman movie might be woke. And the reason why there were fears of that was because of some of the comments the director James Gunn had been making doing the media circuit. Gunn had talked about how the Superman movie was somewhat political and that he was an immigrant, and all that crap. And, there were other comments during the red carpet event where you had other actors and people talking, making, almost making fun of MAGA, saying, oh, he's an immigrant, MAGA, they don't like immigrants. Essentially, that was sort of the undertone in some of the interviews. But I actually got to see the movie the other day, and the movie is not woke in that sense at all. Him being an immigrant has really nothing to do with the movie. There's no some sort of underlying message regarding immigration and stuff like that. The movie is somewhat political, though, but it's not political in the way some people would have thought. The movie is definitely a bit anti-Israel. There's no question about that. So the movie was kind of based, actually. And it's anti-Israel in the sense that there's this country that is trying to invade this other country, and Superman prevents the country from invading, and it's controversial because this country that he stops from invading is a country that the U.S. backs and gives a lot of money, a lot of military assistance. I think just saying that statement, everyone understands why that sounds like Israel, right? A country that's invading other countries that the U.S. always backs. Yeah, that sounds like Israel to me. And the whole point of the movie is that Lex Luthor is helping this country because he's selling them arms as well. And, the point is that the movie actually it is political. James Gunn was telling the truth, but it's actually political, I think, in a very timely way, because the movie, I do think, is more or less anti-Israel. And I think that's good, because I think how Israel's handled itself the last, well, for many years, but certainly the past, ever since October 7th, I think the way Israel's handled itself is just disgraceful. I mean, if you're listening to this and you support Israel, I can understand supporting Israel, but you can't defend their behavior. The way they've handled Gaza is just disgusting. Forcing Trump to get us involved in a war, even if it only lasted a few days, was terrible. Even if it ended up working out okay, Israel's gone out of control. So it was a little bit refreshing to see me, even though, the Superman movie doesn't obviously say this is about Israel. It's very obvious. It's almost an anti-Zionist film in that sense, as long as you understand some of the parallels. But the Superman movie was not woke, so I actually, but that being said, it actually wasn't that great. I'm not going to do a big old film review, but the film had a lot of pacing problems. Lex Luthor's motivation was sort of all over the place. It does seem like a lot of scenes from the film were cut out. There was, I think, and it also feels like you get the movie starts like halfway through like the second act. It's like we're missing a whole other act when the movie starts. It's a little strange in that sense, but it was not woke. The film is not woke. So if you're one of those people who can't stand woke films, which to be honest, I'm not one of those people. I can handle some woke. It's Hollywood. It is what it is. But if you're one of those people who can't stand it, I think you can go see Superman. Now, if you love Israel, you may not like the film. Even though, again, they don't name Israel, obviously. These are, I think they were fictional countries, or countries I'd never heard about. I mean, they were obscure, but I'm pretty sure they were just fictional. And, like I said, there's clearly an underlying message regarding Israel. So, that I appreciate. That was based. That made the film based. A Superman movie, when part of the plot is basically trying to stop Israel from going out of control. Fucking base, bro. So I'll take it. Superman, not the best movie. It was sort of mid. I mean, it was good, but I had high expectations. But it wasn't woke. So that was good. That exceeded my expectations because I thought there'd be some woke messaging. I thought Lois Lane maybe would save the day, like you see in these other superhero movies where the female character is the one who actually beats the bad guy. Not one of those films. Superman is Superman. It's not woke. It's anti-Israel. Yeah, the film has a lot of problems, but being woke is not one of those. So, and it's it's a big F you to Israel. So what's not to like it, I guess. So, I sort of recommend the film. Next topic I want to discuss is more about Epstein and the fallout. Trump's approval rating has tanked the last several days, and a bunch of reputable pollsters, Richard Barris, Rasmussen, all these pollsters are showing that Trump's approval has just tanked ever since the Epstein debacle. People are mad at the administration, they're mad at Pam Bondi. Dan Bongino reportedly almost quit over the past weekend over Bondi's cover-up. And Trump, again, is releasing stupid statements on Truth Social about the Epstein files. There's something about the Epstein files really bother him. I mean, there's no question about it. Now, that makes some people believe that he's implicated in the Epstein files. I don't think that's right at all. But, again, I'll read what Trump had to say today, but he released another ridiculous statement. The radical left Democrats have hit pay dirt again, just like with the fake and fully discredited Steele dossier, the lying 51 intelligence agents, and the laptop from hell, which the Dems swore had come from Russia. No, it came from Hunter Biden's bathroom. And even the Russia scam itself, a totally fake and made-up story used in order to hide crooked Hillary Clinton's big loss in the 2016 presidential election. These scams and hoaxes are all the Democrats are good at. It's all they have. They are not good at governing, no good at policy, and no good at picking winning candidates. Also, unlike Republicans, they stick together like glue. Their new scam is what we'll ever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. And my past supporters have bought into this bullshit hook, line, and sinker. They have learned, and then he goes on to say that they haven't learned their lesson. And, keeps calling it the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. I mean, the fact that Trump is so fixated on not talking about Epstein, it's weird. Okay, can we admit that shit is weird? Like, why is he so obsessed with us not talking about Epstein? Why is he so agitated by MAGA talking about Epstein? I've pushed back on the podcast and in my personal life for many years, saying, people say, oh, Trump had connection to Epstein. I'd be like, no, not really. He kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. One of Epstein's lawyers tried to find out if Epstein had any dirt on Trump. He didn't. And the lawyers have been on the record for that. One of Epstein's lawyers. So I've always pushed back that, yes, there are photos with him, but just because you have a photo with Epstein doesn't mean you were, effing kids on his island, okay? Just to be blunt. So I've always sort of viewed it as sort of a ridiculous, conspiracy theory. But Trump won't let this go. He seems really bothered by the fact that this issue is being talked about. And it's just fucking weird. Okay, why is he calling it the Jeffrey Epstein hoax? What's the hoax? The hoax is that he didn't kill himself? I mean, is that is the hoax that he didn't have, is the hoax that he had an island? And that he was having sex with minors? Or other people are having sex? What is the hoax exactly? Is the hoax him saying that he has any connection to Epstein? Is that what he's referring to? Like, what is the hoax exactly? Like, was he an innocent man? Is that why he killed himself? Because he was unwrongly locked up and being prosecuted? What is the hoax that Trump is talking about? And this leads to a couple theories, and I've discussed some of them before, but there's a new one that I think may be credible. The first theory is that there really was nothing there, and that Trump and people within his administration are frustrated, not because they're covering anything up, but because the way Pam Bondi handled it, it created an expectation, because she said that she had the Epstein files on her desk, effectively, that it created an expectation that there was going to be all these, revelations, and then nothing happened. So now the public is pissed, and Trump and his people within his administration are mad about that because they want to focus on, other issues they deem more important. That's a very possible theory, that they're not covering anything up, but there's just frustration because there was this expectation that Pam Bondi basically set up, that the FBI couldn't deliver, and Trump's mad about that. That's very possible. Second theory is that there is something they're hiding, and it has to do with intelligence. Whether Epstein was working for U.S. intelligence, Israeli intelligence, or some other foreign government's intelligence that, with all the shadiness regarding Epstein, how he got all that money, how he has all these connections to powerful people with governments like Israel, it's a legitimate question. And that's the second theory, that particularly they released a statement when Bibi Netanyahu was visiting the White House, is that they're covering up the fact that Epstein was used by intelligence, likely Israeli intelligence, with probably working in tandem with us to some degree. That's the second theory. That's also possible. And I think probably the most likely explanation is that Epstein was working for Israel, and the Trump administration is cucked to Israel, so they want to cover it up. Very possible. I think the most likely explanation. The third explanation is that, and I heard Megyn Kelly talk about this, and I think it's very possible, that when the Epstein files were in control of the Democrats during the last 4 years, when, they were under Merrick Garland's control, that basically the documents were tampered with by Democrats to try to set up Trump, more or less, and try to make it look like Trump had a bigger connection to Epstein than in reality he had, because they knew this would happen, during the months between the election and Trump's inauguration, and they maybe altered the files to try to point to Trump in a way that was dishonest as one sort of like F you to Trump from the Democrats, from Merrick Garland, from the Justice Department that, remember, was trying to prosecute Trump during this time period right before the election. That's sort of a newer theory I've heard, and I think that is very possible. I could see these Justice Department officials being pissed that they can no longer prosecute Trump after Trump's victory, so they altered these Epstein files because they knew that MAGA wants to see them, and if you manipulate them to make Trump look implicated in some way that's dishonest, it makes releasing the Epstein files much more difficult. That's very possible. I would not put it past the Democrats and the Justice Department at all to do something like that. So to me, those are the three main theories. And I should say that there's a fourth theory would be, and I really still do not believe this, regardless of Trump's weird comments, that Trump is actually legitimately implicated in the Epstein files, and that Trump was, having sexual relations with minors on Epstein's Island, and that's in these documents. Okay, that'd be the fourth. I don't believe that for multiple reasons. I think Democrats would have leaked it when they had control of the files, so that was the case. I just don't believe they would have sat on that. I think that's ridiculous. And I don't think Trump would do that. Trump's not the type of guy. Trump likes women, okay? He likes adult women. That's what Trump likes. There's no evidence that he'd be into that. There's no evidence he actually was on Epstein's Island, for what it's worth. So I don't believe that at all. But I should, just to be fair and to clear, that would be a fourth theory, that why Trump is acting this way is because he is directly implicated. So those are the main theories. Again, I think the most likely theory is that they're protecting Israel. I do think that's the case. Why the administration feels the need to have to protect Israel so much is beyond me. But I don't know what... Look, there's something wrong here. Okay, something isn't right. Trump doesn't repeatedly talk about an issue the way he is if he isn't clearly pissed off about it. Again, whether he's pissed because he wants to talk about other things, his accomplishments, or he's pissed because he wants this issue to go away for one of the reasons I talked about, something here isn't right. And again, it's true that this was not an issue Trump really ran on much, really at all. But that doesn't mean he shouldn't do the right thing, and the right thing is having more transparency. So, look, they're clearly hiding something, or they should just come out and say, hey, look, we fucked up, and he needs to fire Pam Bondi. If the explanation is that Pam Bondi just created expectations the FBI couldn't meet, then just fire her. Just tell her, hey, look, she effed this up. She created expectations by saying that there's all these files that I guess didn't really exist. It's her fault. We apologize for creating this expectation of all these revelations. And Pam Bondi's going to have to, pay the consequence for that. And he needs to be fired for transparency reasons. Just do that. And there's really nothing there. Just do that, because Pam Bondi mishandled this either way. So, It'll be interesting to see. I think this issue will eventually blow over, but this is causing damage. Like I said, pollsters are showing Trump's approval rating dip, like legit pollsters, not these fake pollsters. Legit pollsters are showing Trump's approval tanking. Democrats are, gaining leads in generic ballot questions regarding the 26 midterms. This is not a small issue. This is a big issue. And Trump usually in the end reverses himself when he's going in the wrong direction because Trump has always been good at reading the room. But so far he hasn't been reading the room. And it's going to be interesting to see when he finally does. But I believe he will. And like I said, Trump usually, sometimes he makes it a little bit too interesting. It's a little too close for comfort. But usually Trump in the end comes through on the right side. But we'll see. It's going to be interesting to continue to observe this situation. Anyway, thanks for listening. Please remember to subscribe, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. I really appreciate the support. Talk to you guys later.